This week in Chicago, I have the opportunity to test drive the Volkswagen ID.Buzz. And I have to tell you, I've had a lot of looks and finger pointing in my general direction this week. And yeah, we're going to get into that just a little bit. So what I want to do in this video is I want to talk about the reasons why somebody might want to buy this iconic new vehicle and the 3 reasons that might turn them off. My name is Jill Ciminillo with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Let's take a closer look at the Volkswagen ID.Buzz right now. All right, the biggest reason I think that somebody's going to want to buy the Volkswagen ID.Buzz is because, yeah, this just looks really cool. It is a throwback to the original bus from Volkswagen, complete with really kitschy features and cool eye-popping colors. So I think that this is an eye-catching vehicle. It's 3 rows, it's electric, and the fact that it is so unique and so unlike anything that is currently on the road, that is going to be the biggest thing that's going to bring people into the showroom and is really going to make people want to check out this vehicle. Now, another reason that people would consider the Volkswagen ID.Buzz is going to be the fact that there are just so many clever features. So we'll just start in the back since I'm already outside. And while you don't have like the wells that kind of dip down like normal minivans or other minivans would do, they did do some clever storage space back here. So you've got this shelf and then you have these bins that you could put things in. And you do have the ability to push the seats back to create a flat load floor with this shelf in place. And so, I mean, you do have some options back here in the cargo area, and the shelf and the bins, I think, are really a cool and clever idea, a way to maximize your space. So you can stack stuff on top of the shelf. Moving to the inside of the Volkswagen ID.Buzz, in addition to this really cool and clever interior design and some of the material choices, okay, yeah, white would not be my choice, but this is just an option. So in addition to just the overall design of this, there's just a lot of really nice features on the interior as well. So here I am sitting down and put my butt in the seat, and the vehicle essentially just turns on without the use of the key. If I put my foot on the brake pedal, it moves my seat forward into my original driving position, and must have turned on the turn indicator at one point, but moves my seat into the original, my last driving position, and is ready for me to hook my seat belt and go. So I like the fact that you don't have to get the key out of the pocket. You don't have to press an ignition switch. You just get in and you can go. That makes life very easy and very quick. But I will point out, if you do want to turn the vehicle on or off, when it is off or on, you do have this switch right here that you can press. And I think it's kind of funny because it says engine, start, stop, engine. Yeah, this is an electric vehicle. There's no engine here. I have to believe they probably either were just using up extra parts or maybe that's a joke. I don't know. At any rate, so interior design is another big thing that I really like, and another thing I think people are really going to like. So along those lines, you have a lot of clever features here. So this right here is going to be a drop down for your cup holders, but if you are not going to have any beverages, you can put that back up and stow it away, and then you have space here to store bags, purse, groceries, whatever you would like to put here. So I like this extra storage space. You also have a lot of little cubby bins throughout the vehicle in order to set things and store things. And especially in a vehicle that's going to be used for a family, extra storage spaces are really, really nice. And you have a really well-placed wireless phone charger right here that also has USB-C charge ports. So if you just wanted to set your phone in here and then charge with a wired-in connection, you could totally do that. And then you have USB ports in that little tray right there. And those trays can continue throughout the vehicle in the second row as well. So you can set your device in the door and charge. in terms of clever features, another interesting thing they've done is in the climate portion of the vehicle, and you have your dual automatic climate controls, but you can also do a smart thing. Like if your hands are cold, it will move the heat to come and essentially hit your hands on the steering wheel. But if your feet are cold, you can warm your feet. You can cool your feet. I don't know. I like the idea that you don't have to futz around with this too much, and you can just warm a specific area that you would like to do. So quick heating, quick cooling, all of those things. I like that. But for my purposes, I've just been trying to actually keep it on auto. Let me go back off of auto. But I don't know. At any rate, I do like the fact that you can go into this and then, do a quick hot tap to get some things featured specifically for what you need. While we are looking at this area, I will also point out I like the largeness of this infotainment screen, and I like the easy access that you have in terms of switching back and forth between your Apple CarPlay or your vehicle settings. And it makes it really easy to kind of go back and forth between all of the things. And this itself does a really good job of integrating, your Apple CarPlay and your phone features with the vehicle features, just by kind of swiping through the different things. And if I were listening to a podcast on Apple Podcasts, that would show up here instead of the radio icon. So again, you don't even necessarily have to go into Apple CarPlay to access your Apple CarPlay features. So that, and combined with the large infotainment screen, I think is going to be a huge selling point. So even when you're in your climate controls or whatever you're doing here, I think these icons are really big, and so they're easy to touch, and so they're going to be easy to do while you are driving. So one of the complaints I have with infotainment screens that include a lot of things within them is the fact that the icons are really small, and people with bigger hands than mine, which is essentially everybody in the world, they're going to have problems hitting those things. But that's not really a problem here. And so I think I mean, maybe the infotainment system isn't going to be a reason why people are going to buy the Volkswagen ID.Buzz, but I don't think it's going to be a deterrent here. I mean, I'm not a fan of these slider things, but I do think it is something that you would get used to after time. And you do also have the ability to control your volume and some of the things right here as well. So I like the large infotainment screen. I think another reason that people are really going to be interested in the Volkswagen ID.Buzz is the generous space you have for all of your passengers. I took this to a friend's house during the test period, and they were all tall people. So I think the shortest friend there was 5'11". And so I had them climb in and out of the vehicle. We'll flash some pictures on the screen, but somebody who was 6'4" sat behind somebody who was 6'3", who sat behind somebody who was like 6 feet tall. So, you're definitely going to be able to fit taller passengers in here in comfort. And the seats themselves are also incredibly comfortable. And when I say tall people can fit, it is not just in the first and second rows. They will fit in the third row as well. Now, headroom is going to be a little bit tight back there, but in general, the space is really good for a multitude of passengers. And since I'm on the petite side of things, I also want to talk about the great visibility you're going to get with all of these windows. I especially like this split A-pillar here, and that gives you really good view into your blind spots when you're coming into a four-way stop. Plus the lower belt line, and then just all the windows, all of the open space that you just have great visibility when you are driving. Especially in a city situation like I'm in, I want to have all of the views and all of the visibility, and I want to be able to see really well because I don't want to hit anyone, anything, or, I'm actually even trying to avoid potholes here, which is tough. So I really appreciate the great visibility, and I think that is also going to be a huge selling point. Now, before I get into the 3 things that I think might turn people off, I had to climb into the second row to show you a couple more clever features that I think are selling points. So the first off, you have this center console in the front that has a little drawer back here that if you leave it in front, people can store things from the second row in that space. But here's the really nice thing about it. You can move this center console to a space right here, to a space right here, so that you create better access for the second row and even the third row. And I anticipate that this will be like an aftermarket thing. So if you wanted a second center console, you could probably buy it from the dealer so that you have two to be able to fit in the different spaces. So you know what, I'm gonna move it, and there's like little latches here that you kind of stick up. And then to pop this out of place, there's a button that you kind of pull up, and then this is really light. I would say it's maybe 10 pounds, but it's probably, I mean, maybe 10 pounds. It's very light, and there's nothing in this right now. And so then what you have to do is, you can see on the underside, there's like these little holes that you have to maneuver over the space that is sticking up, and then you can just kind of pop it into place, and it will lock into place. And then you have access to the center console here. You have access to the center console here if you wanted to move it forward. And then it frees up a whole bunch of space between the two front passengers if you had a diaper bag or something else that you wanted to put there. Purses, I don't know. Whatever you want to put there. I don't carry a purse, so that is not my jam. Now, the other thing that I think is really cool and clever back here is the fact that this right here opens. So you have a switch right here, and this opens really pretty far. You have a nice open space right there. Now, oh, and it's one touch. So you have one touch open and close back here. That gets another thumbs up. So I like the window opening and in the second row, so you can create your own airspace, and then you have this movable, removable center console. All right, while I am lounging comfortably in the third row, I'm going to get into the three things that might be a little bit of a turnoff for some buyers. And it's really funny. I went to breakfast yesterday with some friends and their kids, and they were very intrigued by this vehicle. They wanted to get in and out of it and climb all around it. And I'm talking about the kids here, and 6 years old and 3 years old, and they absolutely loved this vehicle. But the very insightful 6-year-old came up to me as he's standing inside the vehicle, and he said, "You know what? This is a really cool vehicle, but there's one big problem with it." And I was like, "Okay, what's the problem?" And he like walks back into this third row area, and he looks back into the cargo space, and he's like, "There's not enough room back there." I was like, "Oh my." So I don't know what he was thinking of in terms of why there wouldn't be enough room back there, but strollers, I don't know, athletic gear, he plays baseball, but he very insightfully hit on one of the big problems with this vehicle. If you are going to seat 6 people in here and you're not folding these seats flat, there's really not a lot of cargo room back there. The shelf is clever, the little storage bins are clever, thumbs up there, but the problem is going to be if you have 2 kids, strollers, athletic gear, any of the things that you need to fit back there with an active lifestyle, there's just not enough space back there, as my 6-year-old friend said. All right, so now on to the 2 things that are going to turn off adults. And the biggest thing is going to be probably the price tag, because the base price for this vehicle is going to be just more than $60,000. And that is going to be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, even when you're looking at electric vehicles, it's still a tough pill to swallow. Yes, this is 3 rows, and yes, that is a rarity currently in the market, but I am going to point out that the Kia EV9 is priced $5,000 less than this vehicle right here, and while it may not fit as many tall people, and it may not have as many clever features, and it's kind of losing its cool factor because it's been around for a couple years now, that's still going to be a better value. And yeah, I think you're going to have a little more cargo space. I'm not looking at the specs. I can't say, but I kind of feel like it does. So that is going to be a little bit of turnoff. But I think perhaps the biggest turnoff, and I don't know that it should be a turnoff, but I think this is going to be the biggest turnoff, is the fact that it has about 234 miles of range. Maxed out. 234 miles of range. And a lot of people are really looking for 300 plus miles of range. The new Hyundai Ioniq 9 that just came out is targeting 300 plus miles of range in every trim, and this has 234. For a vehicle that is has a history steeped in road trips and, you know, driving all over the place, this is not going to drive you all over the place. It's going to drive you 234 miles, maybe, as long as it's not cold and, you know, you're not driving up a mountain. So that's going to be a little bit of a deterrent, especially until the infrastructure is built out a little bit more. I know I would be a little bit nervous about taking this down to Indianapolis to see my mom, but if I drove 5 miles under the speed limit like I did in the Hyundai Ioniq N, perhaps I could make it with ideal weather conditions. Still going to be a bit of a turnoff. So cargo space, price, and range are the three reasons why somebody might not buy this. But overall, I have to tell you, I really, really like this vehicle. It's fun to drive. Again, it looks really cool. There've been a lot of people who've been like pointing at me and taking pictures because I think this is the only one in Illinois right now. And I, you know, it's definitely got the cool factor. And again, all the space for tall people. You know what? I'm going to get into just some brief driving impressions to close this out. All right, I have to say, one of the weirdest things to get used to while driving the Volkswagen ID.Buzz is the fact that there is essentially no front end to this vehicle. So it took me a hot minute to get used to the driving proportions and to understand where I needed to turn to make a corner, especially in my tight alley. The first time I went to go in and out of my alley, which, you know what, we'll just go in there right now, I turned a little bit too soon because you think you have all of this hood in front of you to be able to make the turn, but instead you essentially need to go a little bit past the turn and then make your turn, and then you have all of this space in front of you to make the wide turn. So just the size proportions of the vehicle take a little bit of time to get used to. But I mean, after the first time of like, you pretty much got it. But I will say, one of the things I definitely appreciate about this vehicle is the fact that it does have a really good turning radius. So as I mentioned, I do have great visibility out of all the windows. And so that combined with the good turning radius just makes this a very easy vehicle to drive. Now, I will say, you know, I put the headrest up in the back, and I didn't think about this because I had the headrest down for most of my driving period, but I could see how they could pose a little bit of a distraction or a problem if you had a full vehicle. And one of my friends asked me, well, is there a rear camera mirror? And I was like, not on this vehicle. So that also is a little bit of a miss, but not a reason why I wouldn't buy this vehicle. Now, I'm currently driving down one of my favorite nasty streets in Chicago. It's called Cortland, and it has a lot of speed bumps and nasty bumps. And I will say this does handle that pretty well. So it's comfortable on the highway. It has really nice acceleration because electric vehicle, and it handles, you know, city streets pretty well also. And this isn't like a very big, wide vehicle. So once you get used to the spatial proportions of the ID.Buzz, you're actually going to fit down narrower city streets pretty well. And I found that this actually parked pretty well in tight city parking lots, especially with the side doors that slide. You know, you're not going to have to worry about kids trying, you know, to open the doors and then opening the doors into a vehicle next to you. So I don't know. I just wanted to give some brief driving impressions because I think this is really fun. and I've really enjoyed my time in this vehicle. This is one of those vehicles that I'm actually kind of sad to give up. Yeah. So that is what I have for you today in the Volkswagen ID.Buzz. What do you think of it? Is this something that you would consider for a family vehicle, or are you turned off by the price range and cargo space? Comment below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you down the road.